Hi, I'm AC and today I'm going to make a red velvet inspired cake. So what I'm using 3 1/3 cups of self-raising flour. I'm using 2 1/4 cups of just plain sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, about 170 grams of butter, 1/3 of a cup of cocoa powder, about 1 1/2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 3 really big eggs, 1 1/2 cup of buttermilk, and I'm using beetroot to colour it. So this is about, well, it's 2 medium-sized beetroots, so about 1 1/2 cups of grated beetroot. So I'm going to use a food processor, well actually a KitchenAid in this case for this recipe. You can also just use a plain hand mixer, but it's quite difficult to do it just with a hand whisk. So what I've done first is I've just cut our butter. It's at room temperature at this point, and I just cut it into manageable pieces to put into the processor. So what I'm going to do is just turn this on first to make it a little bit more soft and easier to add the other ingredients in. Then what I'm doing next, don't worry about that, I'm just going to add all of the sugar in, just easy peasy, put it back down and turn it on again. Then we're just going to open it up again, and it's roughly mixed at this point. So I'm just going to take these down, just scrape these down a wee bit, and add our salt. And then turn it back on again. So as you can see, it's well combined now and it's become a little bit more pale. So what I'm going to do next is add in our eggs, one at a time, mixing in between. So at this point, I'm just going to scrape down the sides just to make sure that everything is in the mixture before I add the other ingredients. So next I'm going to be adding my vanilla extract. You can also use just vanilla sugar or just beans out of a vanilla pod. Also to that I'm going to be adding the buttermilk. Just pour that in. And then our beetroot. Now what the beetroot's going to do is it's going to make the cake a lot more moist, and the texture is probably similar to a carrot cake, but what it's also going to do, I mean, look at that, you know, it's just pure pink pigment in there, and it's really going to give our cake that distinctive red colour that red velvet cake has. So I'm just going to blend this all together. Now for this next part, I'm going to be putting my cocoa powder into my flour and sifting it in, because cocoa powder does have a lot of lumps and you don't want those in your cake, because you do want it to have that red colour rather than that, you know, speckled with brown bits. Then we're just going to whisk these together with a normal hand whisk. And that's going to also break up the lumps of both the cocoa powder and the flour, so that we are able to put it into our mixture more evenly and easier. So what I'm going to do for this next step, I'm going to put this on because it'll avoid bits from flying all over the place, and because we are working with a very strong red colour, we'll just get red everywhere and it's a nightmare to clean up. So I'm going to put this on low, and then I'm going to add a little bit of flour at a time. So as you can see, the cake batter is finished now, and it's got that really rich red colour. Now it is a little bit darker than it usually is in a red velvet cake because we added a little bit more cocoa powder. I think cocoa powder actually, well, chocolate works really well with beetroot, so that's why I wanted the chocolate flavour to be a little bit stronger, and I think it just works really well, and it still looks really beautiful and bright red. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the half of the batter into a non-stick baking dish, and we're going to bake it at 180 degrees Celsius. So that's around 300 degrees Fahrenheit. So what I'm going to do now is just wiggle it around just to make it nice and flat. And this can go into the oven. So I'm just going to bake this, and I'm going to come and check on it in about 25 minutes and see if it's done. It should take between 25 and 30 minutes to bake. So it's been just over 20 minutes and the cake is already baked, as you can see. So I'm just going to take it out of the oven. And leave it to cool. So what I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to work on the frosting. Now, because we've already went into that chocolatey, beetrooty goodness, I'm going to continue with the frosting. So I'm not going to be making a buttercream frosting or anything like that. I'm going to be making a white chocolate frosting to still stay in that colour scheme, but obviously have that lovely chocolatey flavour. So I'm using this white chocolate that has vanilla in it. Now, any or almost every white chocolate would have vanilla in it, but this one has really real grains in it, so that's why I'm using that one. But you could just use any one. And I'm gonna put it in a double boiler. So I'm just gonna start breaking this up into pieces, and because of the indirect heat, it'll just melt slowly and become smooth instead of separating and going all dry with oily patches and just becoming gritty and disgusting. So we're just gonna let this melt in a pot. So whenever it's about almost all melted like this, I'm gonna add my double cream. This is heavy whipping cream. And so just one tub, about 300 ml, and we're just going to mix that in slowly with a whisk until it's nice and smooth and just all incorporated. So this is the frosting after both of them are well melted and incorporated. It just took about 1 minute, not even. And now we're going to just turn off the heat. I'm going to take it off of the heat here and continue mixing just to avoid it from attaching at the bottom. And then I'm just going to add it into the food processor again. And then using one of these whiskey bits, I'm just going to whisk it until it becomes harder, like stiffer and fluffier. So this is the finished frosting. Now I forgot to say earlier that you need to let it cool completely. Maybe even once it's at room temperature, put it in the fridge for a couple of minutes, so because if it's too warm, it just won't stiffen this way. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some of this and I'm going to put it on the cake. The cake's cool to room temperature as well. So just start spreading it onto the bottom layer of the cake. And then we're going to take the second slice and just put it on top and then cover it with the rest of the mixture. Now we do want to keep about at least 2/3 of this mixture for covering the outside. Just get a little swirl effect at the top just to make it more farm style, rustic looking. So this is the finished cake. Now you can either, you know, just start eating it right away or put it in the fridge so that it sets and cools down completely. Hey, we're back and the cake has cooled a little bit in the fridge, and now I'm gonna slice it open and let Henrik taste it, and I think he's pretty eager.
Wow.
Go for it. Whoa.
That's a really, really good deep red colour. Really nice. That's really interesting. So that flavour is really excellent, really nice and moist texture because of the beetroot. Obviously the beetroot gives it a fantastic colour, that red you're looking for, without using food colouring, because food colouring, well, is essentially crushed beetles, so that's not too appetizing, and some people are actually allergic to it, so this is a really good alternative. And the beetroot doesn't only give it colour, but it adds sweetness, texture, you know, moisture. Just, it's fantastically deep flavoured cake, really interesting, and that white chocolate ganache frosting is to die for. Honestly, really fantastic. So give this cake a try.
Hopefully we'll see you soon, and please give us a thumbs up if you liked it, and write a comment if you have anything to tell us. We're always glad to hear what you have to tell us, and if you like our recipes and if you like to see some more, please subscribe, and we hope to see you soon. Bye.